Hi everybody, Patrick here from EngineeringShock.com and PaintballProps.com. I want to introduce you to the Laser Blazer IR-XX01 proximity turret. And this device has several different functions, and it even has a really cool function that allows for you to interface with the IR-XX03 sound effects module. I'll get to that at the end of the video, but that's a really neat function. If you have the right settings set up on the board, you have it plugged up in properly, then you can add sound effects to proximity mode. Let me just give you a quick introduction of what comes with it. I'll be selling AC adapters separately. You have two power options: AC adapter and battery port. Using a terminal block. V+ is positive, GND ground is negative. This is a PIR sensor. It is a motion detector module that picks up on the human presence, and it can be mounted. There are mounting holes on all four sides. This is your mode selection jumper pad, and these are the 4 infrared LEDs. Now, the neat thing is you can bend them all out if you want and make a respawning area by shooting the right signal into the infrared receiver right here. You can mount it to a wall, and you can essentially make a turret. Several different modes of operation here. This relay and siren output is not implemented with this specific version. I have plans for that in the future. But what this does is it effectively takes in and learns an infrared signal, and using a high power mode and several different angles allows for you to make a very basically a polluted area. You can pollute the area so that by using say an infrared remote control to program in a signal that's not going to be recognized by the gun, so you can make a safe area if you want. You can also place it in a mode where you shoot the board and it retransmits that same signal. I'm going to go through all the different modes of operation. It's really neat. I hope I can keep your attention. This is your reset button, and this is one of our mode select buttons. We're going to be using that a little bit later. Now, the first mode we want to play with is our PIR mode. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have everything removed on the 2 and 3 jumpers, and we're going to have a jumper over the A1 set of pins. And that's going to place us into proximity mode. And in proximity mode, you program in a signal, and when the device senses that there's a human presence, it retransmits that learned signal. And so if I walk into the room, run by, it's going to retransmit that signal and hit the player, and it's going to stop transmitting when it stops detecting movement. So let's power it up and give it a try. So I'm going to plug it in. I've got jumper 1 selected on A. Just going to plug it in, and I'm going to move back. Now that LED is going to flash 80 times, giving the sensor time to warm up, because the PIR sensor typically has a wonky output when it's powered up, and if the output is still high, when it's done blinking, the LED will stay on until the output goes low. Okay, so now what I have to do is I'm going to program in. It's going to detect me right now, so I'm going to stay really still, and I'm going to use a remote control just as an example. I'll use my guns in a minute to program it by aiming it at the receiver. And once I program it in, it becomes active. So it's active right now. If I move, it's retransmitting on all 4 infrared LEDs. And if you're lucky, you might even be able to see the infrared LEDs through the camera. The human eye can't see it. So I'm going to move away, and it stops. I'm going to move in front of the PIR sensor again, and it's going to continue to pulse until I move away, at which point the PIR sensor output goes low. So every time I run by with my gun, it transmits. And if I move away, once the output settles, it stops. Run in front of it again, and there we go. So now what I'm going to do is, before we move on to the next mode, I'm going to power up my Ubisoft guns and show you the effect of this. So they haven't been mounted, but I've got my trusty little tool here to hold the PIR sensor out and to have the turret board facing this way. I haven't programmed in a gun yet, but I have plugged it in. We have seen the LED flicker 80 times. It's ready to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the guns, and I'm going to basically I'm going to program in one gun. Only the other gun is going to be attacked when I run by. to make a video like this while I'm by myself without help is a little bit difficult, so I hope you can understand and follow along. So I've programmed in the gun right here. I'm going to run across. So there you have it. Before we touch on the other modes of operation, just because we're in PIR mode, let's talk about the easy interface between the IR-XX03 and the IR-XX01. So if you've watched the sound effect module of the IR-XX03 video, you'll know that in standalone mode you always keep the second connector here, CN2, in A position. There's A and there's B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to connect 3 wires. Noting which one is left, which one is right, which one is middle. Yellow is left, red is right, orange is middle. And I'm going to connect that to jumper 2, keeping yellow to the left, orange to the middle, and red to the right. Now when I power the unit up, when I power this up, it is powering the IR-XX03, and it's also talking to it. So when in proximity mode, as long as I set everything up properly, what will happen is every time it detects motion, you'll hear a ricochet sound effect. So what I need to do now is connect my stereo connector to my external speaker. I'm going to move this aside, and I'm not going to show this with the guns again, just for simplicity and to save time. And I'm going to power it up, but when I power it up, I'm going to hold this button down. I'm going to hold the TRG button on the right down, and I'll hold it for a second. And let go. And I'll move away. And once the PIR has calibrated, it's still going to work like it did before, only now I can interface the bullet ricochet sound effects with it. So just give it 1 second. Oh, first of all I need to shoot in. I need to program a signal. So I'm going to shoot. Pretty cool, eh? So I'm way far back. I'm moving in. And there we go. So whenever somebody walks by, when it detects movement from a human presence, that's going to happen. It's going to retransmit the signal that I taught it, and it's going to tell the IR-XX03 sound effect module to feed the 3 ricochet sound bites to your external speaker. So now I'm going to reset it. If you don't hold the button down, the TRG button down during power up, then it doesn't communicate with the IR-XX03. Let's talk about the rest of the functions, and then we'll call an end to this video. Now let's talk about turret mode, or repeat times 10 mode. In this mode, when I shoot the sensor with one gun, it retransmits that same signal 10 times at a slow frequency. So once I shoot it, it'll repeat that same signal once, twice, 3 times. You'll get a feel for it in just a second. All I had to do was switch the jumper 1 from A to B. So let's power it up. The PIR sensor does not need to be connected for this mode. You don't have to disconnect it, it doesn't really matter. So I'll simply plug it in. Nothing happens. The IR LEDs are pointed outwards. Basically, anywhere I am in this room, it's going to hit me. So I'm going to shoot with one gun to program it, and the other gun's going to get hit constantly. You can hear it getting hit. Now a lot of your guns, I imagine, would, once you get hit, there's a respawn time of 5 or 10 seconds. So with these guns, there is no such respawn time. So once it's gone through 10 cycles of transmitting, it stops, and it waits for someone else to shoot the sensor. So it's basically a run-by. Someone's chasing you, on your way by, you shoot it, and now the other gun is getting hit. So there you have it. 10 times, and it will shut. 10 times, and it'll be back in the reset state, saying, I'm ready to be programmed again. So I'm just going to reset, because that's annoying. And next we'll talk about the infinite mode. The final mode of operation is infinite mode. Now we're going to keep jumper 1 selecting B, and what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the TRG, the trigger button, on power up. And we're going to hold it down for 3 seconds. And then let go. Now, because I've turned off my guns, because they kept making annoying sounds, I'm just going to use a TV remote control rated for 38 kilohertz to simulate the infinite signal to be retransmitted. And in this mode, it just keeps retransmitting that signal over and over and over again. It doesn't stop. It just continues on until you either remove power or you press the reset button. It'll just keep going. So, again, this is the mode you probably want to use for either a safe zone or a respawning zone. If you have a special signal you can program in for respawn, this is what you'd want to do. It just keeps retransmitting it. There's a time in between to give the IR LEDs a break, so on, off. Now when the LED's on, essentially what's happening is transmit, 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 transmit. And that's it. That is the IR-XX01 proximity turret module. Several modes of operation. If you've made it this far into the video, I sincerely thank you. I realize it's been a long one. I will have these available for pre-order very soon.